You wake up in the middle of the night, your stomach is cramping, you need to go, now, but there's no bathroom, no toilet, no paper, no flush, there's no little room with a door that locks. You step outside into the cold and the dark, and you squat in the dirt, hoping nothing is watching you. This wasn't a nightmare. For almost the entire history of the human race, this was just Tuesday. So how did billions of people, for tens of thousands of years, deal with the one thing every single human has to do? The answer is stranger, grosser, and far more deadly than you'd ever think. Today, you don't even think about it. You press a handle, water swirls, and the problem disappears forever. But the flushing toilet you use every day is shockingly new. Most of human history happened without it. For thousands of years, going to the bathroom wasn't a private, forgettable moment. It was a daily problem to be solved. And in crowded ancient cities, it was one of the biggest threats to human survival that nobody talks about. This is the real, filthy story of how humans went to the bathroom. Here's the thing, for the earliest humans, this was barely a problem at all. Hunter-gatherers were nomads. They wandered. So when nature called, you simply walked a little way from camp, did your business in the bushes, and moved on. And every few weeks, the whole group would pack up and leave anyway. The waste was left behind, broken down by the soil, the rain, and the insects. Nothing piled up, nothing festered. In a strange way, the wandering life kept early humans cleaner than the people who came after them. The trouble started the moment we stopped moving. Around 10,000 years ago, humans did something revolutionary. We started farming. We built permanent homes. We stayed in one place. And for the first time, hundreds, then thousands of people were living crammed together, day after day, year after year, all in the same spot. Suddenly, there was a question nobody had ever needed to answer. Where does all the waste go? You can't just squat behind a bush when 10,000 people share that same bush. The very thing that built civilization created a problem that could rot it from the inside. And humans had to get creative, fast. The first solution was the simplest one imaginable. Dig a hole. Communities set aside a spot, far from where they slept, and hopefully far from where they drank. And everyone used the same pit. When it filled up, you covered it with dirt and dug a new one. It was basic. It smelled. But it worked, and versions of this simple pit toilet are still used by billions of people around the world today. The real danger was getting it wrong, because if that pit was dug too close to your drinking water, you were quietly poisoning your entire village. But some ancient people went way beyond a hole in the ground. Around 4,500 years ago, in the city of Mohenjo-Daro, in what is now Pakistan, something astonishing existed. Many homes had their own private toilets, actual built brick seats, that drained into covered channels running beneath the streets. An entire city with a planned sewage system carrying waste away from where people lived. It was one of the most advanced sanitation networks in the ancient world. And then it was lost. For thousands of years after this city fell, most of humanity would go right back to squatting in the dirt. Progress, it turns out, isn't always a straight line. Okay, let's address the question you've been wondering this whole time. There was no toilet paper. So, what did they use? The honest answer is anything they could find. In much of the world, the solution was water and your left hand, which is exactly why, in many cultures to this day, the left hand is considered unclean and you never eat with it. Elsewhere, people reached for whatever nature offered. Leaves, moss, grass, animal fur, even snow. Some were soft and gentle. Others, you really didn't want to grab the wrong plant in the dark. The ancient Greeks had their own method. Small stones and broken pieces of pottery, smoothed at the edges, called pessoi. There was even an old saying that 3 stones were enough to do the job. But here's the part that's almost too good to be true. Sometimes they'd use broken shards of pottery with the names of people they hated scratched into them, including their political enemies. That's right, ancient Greeks would literally wipe themselves with the name of someone they despised. Pettiness, it seems, is a truly timeless human trait. And then there was Rome. The Romans built grand public toilets, and they were nothing like ours. Picture a long stone bench with a row of holes cut into it, sometimes 20 seats in a row. No walls, no stalls, no privacy whatsoever. You'd sit elbow to elbow with complete strangers and just go. But here's the twist. Nobody was embarrassed. The public toilet was a social spot. People chatted about the news, gossiped, argued politics, and made business deals, all while sitting side by side, doing their business together. To a Roman, going to the bathroom was a team sport. And how did the Romans clean up afterward? With one of the most infamous objects in history. The tersorium, a sea sponge attached to the end of a wooden stick. You'd use it, then rinse it in a channel of running water or a bucket of vinegar, and place it back for the next person. Yes, the same sponge, shared by everyone. All day long, it was clever, it was reusable, and it was a perfect machine for passing disease from one person to the next, one visit at a time. To handle all of this, Rome built something incredible, a vast network of underground sewers, the greatest of them called the Cloaca Maxima, so important the Romans even had a goddess for it. Waste was washed out of the city by flowing water, carried away from the streets where people lived. For the ancient world, it was a marvel of engineering. The Romans truly believed they had conquered filth itself. But they were missing one invisible, fatal detail. They couldn't see germs. They had no idea that waste carried tiny organisms that cause disease. So, again and again, sewage seeped into drinking water, and the result was catastrophic. Dysentery, cholera, and parasites spread through cities and killed staggering numbers of people. Studies of ancient remains show that even the Romans, with all their toilets and sewers, were absolutely riddled with intestinal worms. For thousands of years, until we finally understood germs, bad sanitation quietly remained one of the deadliest forces on Earth, killing far more people than any war. But not everyone saw waste as garbage. In parts of ancient China and Japan, human waste was treated as something valuable, collected, sold, and spread on fields as fertilizer to grow more food. There were even night soil collectors who made a living gathering it from the cities. One person's filth was another person's fortune, and another person's dinner. It was recycling, thousands of years before the word existed. So the next time you flush a toilet without a single thought, take a moment to appreciate it. That simple swirl of water is the end of a struggle that lasted tens of thousands of years. A struggle that involved shared sponges, smoothed stones, public benches, and countless lives lost to invisible disease. The flushing toilet, and clean water to go with it, has saved more human lives than almost any invention in history. It's not glamorous. Nobody builds statues to it. But it might just be one of the greatest things we ever made.